morning, everybody. Welcome back. This is Natasha Rosewood here. For those of you who don't know me, I am a master intuitive, quantum healer, and prolific author. Just can't stop writing. So thanks, Peter, for joining me already. You're always on the nose with this one. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is what are your gifts and how to reveal the magic of you. And when I talk about gifts, I don't mean necessarily that there are things that you are that are talents or abilities, although that is included. What I'm talking about also is things that you do. You might be, for example, excuse me, an empath or a great leader, or you might take responsibility for people, or you might just have a beautiful smile. So what we're going to be looking at is what are your real gifts? Because when we get in touch with what your authentic gifts are, your gifts are what you do. And if when you do that, you become who you are. Alternatively, when you're really your authentic self and you are who you are, you tend to do your gifts, which is what you love to do. So it's kind of, this topic is a kind of a segue from last week where we talked about what do you really deserve. So I'm going to start out with a funny story. It's a joke. It's back in Ireland in the 1960s, and Tommy and Paddy are down the pub having a beer. And Tommy says to Paddy, "You know what, Paddy?" He said, "The other night I was driving through the countryside, and it was a beautiful, beautiful evening, and there was not a soul to be seen. But suddenly my car started acting up, and I had to pull off the side of the road. So I put up the bonnet, and I'm looking underneath, and I can't find a thing that's wrong with it. But then I hear this voice, and it comes from somewhere, and it just says, 'Tommy, will you look in the carburetor?' So I looked up and looked around. There was not a soul to be seen, just this horse in a field." He said, "So I just thought I'd look under again." And the voice came again, "Tommy, will you look in the carburetor?" So I did. And sure enough, there was the problem. So I put the bonnet down and off I drove. So Paddy says, "Is that right, Tommy? Now, you said now there was a horse in the field. Now tell me, what colour was it?" Tommy says, "Oh, let me think now. I think it was brown." And Paddy says, "Oh, it's a good job you didn't get the white horse. He doesn't know a thing about cars." So in life, are you the brown horse that knows what your gifts are, or you're the white horse where your gifts are unknown? So we're going to be looking at the different ways that gifts can show up. And the reason I bring up this topic is because so many clients come to me and they're sitting in front of me and I say, looking into their palm and their psyche and their soul and seeing that they have these gifts. They could be a writer, or they could be a leader, or they could organize fundraising. Like, it's a real gift. And when I mention it to them, often clients will say, "Natasha, over my dead body, I'd never do that. I think you're very nice, but you might be crazy." And I say, "Well, yes, I probably am. But the truth is, you still have these gifts. What I'm seeing in you is your true potential." So why do we not have access to our gifts? When we come into this world, up until the age of about 7, it's like we're in a deep hypnosis, like we're just taking in everything in environment, what our parents say about us, what friends say, what teachers say, whether we're good at something or not. And we just believe them. Why wouldn't we believe them? Because they're the big adults and we're the little children. So we take this in and we accept this as true, but we forget that because we don't have any filters, we forget that these people, these adults, our friends, our teachers, maybe can't see that in us because maybe they don't think it's possible, or their parents didn't have it, therefore you can't have inherited this gift. So we've really got to, as adults then, when we get to be adults, start to question what we've been told about who we are. Last week I asked you to do that exercise, who were you told that you are? So this is more specifically now about your gifts. So I will say to a client, "Oh, Clarissa, I see you being able to write a book," or "You may not become a Picasso, but I see you painting." And what will often happen is the client will start to say, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly do that." But tears will start to trickle down the side of their face because I've hit on some kind of a nerve. Now, if they come with their sister, their friend, or their mother, that other person will say, "Oh, yes, she's actually very good at that." And meanwhile, Clarissa's kind of complete denial saying, "No, no, no, you've got the wrong person here." And I say, "No, I've got the right person, but why are you denying your gift?" So this is the question. Why do we deny our gifts if we have them? Why do we kind of go, "Oh, no, I couldn't possibly." Hi, Pauline, I see you've joined us from Nova Scotia. Hi, great to see your name there. So, excuse me, I've got this bit of a throat going on. So why do we deny our gifts? Well, there are good reasons for it. There's a payoff. If we got to be really good at something, let's just take Michael Jackson, for example. You know, he got to be a really fantastic artist. He had his other issues, but he was a fantastic singing artist and musician. And that came with challenges, big responsibilities. He was able to express his gift, obviously, but as we know, it's not always easy to be in that position where you have a huge fan base, you also have responsibility. So some people choose not to express their gift or keep it on the down and low because they don't want everything that goes with that. The other thing is people would have expectations of us. What would be the expectation to always be on, or always as a psychic, you know, people's expectation of me is like every single thing I say has to be 100% accurate. And what they forget to remember is that they are responsible for their own futures. I'm just seeing that their potential at the time. But if they change their mind, I can be wrong. So we all have expectations of people who are gifted and expect them to be bang on all the time. And as the gifted person, that can be a burden to carry. So sometimes we choose not to be dealing with that either. We may have a fear of success and or failure, which can be the same thing. If I be too successful with that, will I lose my friends? Will I be on my own? How will I cope with it? But if I fail, who will I let down? So there's a lot of reasons why we just put these things out on, you know, kind of hide them away. We hide them away. And until we're ready to absorb them and express them and take them on, we're not going to do that. But the sad part about this is, and this is the side of humanity that I see, is that so many people, when they don't express their God-given gifts, this is a spark of the divine that's coming through, they kind of feel dissatisfied, frustrated. They may be working a job that they don't want to be doing. They're hanging out with people who aren't inspiring them. They're kind of living their life at a kind of in a low frequency. It's a bit like having a Lamborghini sitting in your driveway, and this thing can go 200 miles an hour, but you've put diesel in it, so it can be really sluggish, and you're only driving it in second gear. And I say, what a waste of human energy and joy. Because when we do acknowledge our gifts, whatever they may be, small or large, we tend to become happier. Our gifts connect us to ourselves, to each other. It gives us a sense of belonging. And I always say to people, imagine the world where Picasso didn't paint, or Barbra Streisand didn't sing, or Einstein didn't invent. We might all still be living in caves with no music or nothing happening. So think about that with yourself. What gift are you holding back? And what would make you happier in expressing that? So the other way of trying to access your gift, because it's not always coming on to, as an artist, you know this one. Another way of finding out what your gift is looking at what are the challenges that you've had in your life so far. We've all born with gifts and challenges. Some of them very dramatic, some of them not so much. But if you review the challenges, the events that you may think of as were bad at the time and or good, what were the gifts that you got out of those challenges? So I'm going to give you examples. I always say about my own psychic gift, if my mother hadn't been psycho, I wouldn't be psychic. And the truth is, sad as it is, that because she was so challenging, she was a horror show for a long time, I was motivated to learn what made people tick. Why did good things happen to bad people? Why did bad things happen to good people? And that was just the beginning of my journey. And now, years later, obviously, I've ended up with a very expensive, broad swath of knowledge on metaphysics. What about the mother whose son was killed by a drunken driver, and she started the organization MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers? How many people's lives has she saved because that gift came out of that tragedy? Rick Hansen is another one who's very athletic, had an accident, ended up in a wheelchair, and decided to wheel around the world and just show people that because you have a disability doesn't mean to say that life is over, that there's lots of life to be had. So, these gifts often are the result of a challenge. Sometimes we are born with the gift. The gift will give us the challenge, or the challenge will give us the gift. So the gift, for example, might be like Michael Jackson again. That was his gift. So the challenge came with dealing with the fame and the notoriety that he had to deal with in the end. And there are many famous people that go through the same thing all the time because of their gifts. But what a shame if you don't share it, what your God-given piece of divinity, with the world right now, because we need that. Okay, so how do you reveal your gifts then? So number one is I ask people first and foremost to look at their childhood. Remember their childhood. When was the happiest time in the childhood? What were you doing? Were you just walking through the fields and picking flowers? Were you playing with friends? Were you getting dressed up? Were you pretending to be an airline pilot or an electrician or an actor on a stage? What can you remember about your childhood? Because in your childhood, your gifts were shining through, that your inherent playfulness, what you love to do, what you're going to be good at later on in life because you love to do it, is going to be there. So, for example, I used to love to mimic accents and make people laugh. And now I've become a storyteller. I wanted always to be wise. And so I studied until I've learned some elements of wisdom. So what were your natural inclinations when you were a child, say under 10? And if you can't remember your childhood, because sadly many people can't, they've got big blanks around that time, is just sit in the chair where you are right now, close your eyes, and just go into the feeling of being happy. Where's your happy place? What's going on? Are you riding on a horse? It's sunny, the wind's in your hair, you're skiing down a mountainside. Are you with loved ones? What are you doing? What's your happy place? So just go there, and in the current time, bring that forth, and just realize when you're feeling good and you're doing what you love, just being in your authentic self, that is your gift to you. Number two is review the challenges. When I do the quantum healing process, we go through everything you've been through in this lifetime. Maybe you lost a job, and when you lost that job, something else came up, another opportunity to demonstrate a talent that you didn't know that you had. So look at the challenges and write down with each one what might have been the gift of that challenge, whether it was something you learned to do, something you had to do, whether it was an element of you like strength or compassion, or you had to learn Italian, and you go, wow, I'm good at languages. Something came out of that challenge for you. I can guarantee that, that a gift came out of each challenge. The problem is sometimes we don't look for the gift, or we don't want to acknowledge it. So that's number two. Number three is you can model those who inspire you. Einstein is a big inspiration for me. And what I love about Einstein is he was this genius, but he had this ability to bring all that very intellectual knowledge really down to a very human level. And he came up with some wonderful quotes, which I don't know about you, but have really helped me through my life. And talking about miracles and genius and boldness and all these things. So when we find people that inspire us, whether they're dead or alive, what are the qualities in that person that we like, that are inspiring us? It doesn't have to be anybody famous. It could be the woman next door who's a mother to 10 children and she's doing a fantastic job. It could be somebody that's in a wheelchair that's still um, having a great life. They're an inspiration. So look at the qualities that do inspire you and know that each of those qualities already lives within inside of you. And those are your gifts as well. So claim those, claim them as your gifts. And then number 4 is you can write a compliment journal. And I'm a big believer in telling people what other people think of me is none of my business. Whatever other people think of you is none of your business. And that is true to a large extent because, we probably wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. I certainly wouldn't if, maybe I imagined everything that people were saying about me, good and bad. But if people pay you compliments, that is a sign of what you are emanating into the universe, what's being reflected to you. So get a nice little book and just write these compliments down. And if you're feeling really stuck or lost, you don't know who you are, or you're kind of becoming ungrounded, I've talked about that in the past, maybe ask some trusted family members, friends, or peers and say, hey, what do you think are my best assets? Or where do you think I would really shine here if you're feeling lost? And look at what comes back to you. And if it comes back to you 3 or 4 times, you know that that's definitely something that you are showing to the world and it's being reflected to you. So write down that compliment journal, and then every night before you go to bed, and you can add your own compliments to yourself, absolutely. I think I'm wonderful. Write those down and read them to yourself every night before you go to bed so that they go into your subconscious mind. And then the 5th one is follow your bliss. Now, a gift is something I want to say here. It's not something that you're automatically good at. When as I was growing up, I think I knew I wanted to write a book. I didn't think I might write more than one, but I knew I wanted to write and tell stories. And when I first started writing, I didn't take myself seriously until I was 49 years old. And I decided one day, I love to write. That's my thing. So I need somebody that can show me whether I can write or I can't write. But if I can't write, then I can learn how to write. And the gift, the thing that you want to do that maybe you haven't tried, that maybe you kind of thought, well, I'd like to have a go at that, but I better not, I'm not good enough. What will people think? What will my husband say? Blah, 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 blah. Well, yada, 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 as they say in Seinfeld. We know that this is just a seed of something that's in you. And if you nurture it and you give it time and space and say it's writing you want to do, you give yourself maybe an hour or 2 per week. Maybe you go down to Starbucks and you just start writing a little story and watch that expand and grow. I know for myself, after I've written 5 books now, because I've spent so much time and practice and got mentoring on my writing, I've become, a lot of people say, a very good writer. I would like to be brilliant, so I'm going to just keep practicing writing and getting mentorship on that process until I feel like, yay, I did it. So what is it that you want to express? What would make you happy? Could you go and do a painting class? And it's not about becoming brilliant at it. Doesn't have to be your thing. It's just about you enjoying it, because when you're doing something you enjoy, you get into a high frequency, you're happy, you're sending out these beautiful, happy waves to people around you, and you're actually lifting up the world. So that's why I love it when people express their gifts. Just think what this world would be if everybody was doing what they loved. They weren't just surviving, but they were thriving in this world. Wouldn't it be magical? And think also about what you're holding back. Are you a Barbara Streisand? Are you a Picasso? Um, is there somebody that's got this beautiful gift inside them that it's actually causing pain not to do it? Because that can be the case as well. So I am going to make it short and sweet this week, and I'm just going to leave you with a quote by Henry Ford. He said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're always right." So there you go. It's what you believe to be true about yourself. So choose to believe that you are brilliant at what you love to do, and then you will become brilliant. Amen. So be it, and so it is. So thank you for coming and joining and listening to me. And if you would like to suggest any topics for any of these chats, I would love to hear from you. I'm just making this up as I go along and basing it also on what I see in my clients and where they're holding themselves back. If you'd like to book a quantum healing, you go to my website, natasharosewood.com, or if you'd like a reading. And my gift to you for this Christmas is I'm going to be offering a discount of $25 on each reading and each session. So if you'd like to take advantage of that before Christmas, please book away. In the meantime, I'll see you on the bright side. Namaste.